The 21st Conference of Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change in Paris set an historical agreement between 195 countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The goal of the Paris Agreement is to take actions in a way to limit temperature increase to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase even further to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The Paris Agreement promotes adaptation to enhance adaptive capacity, increase resilience, and reduce vulnerability to climate change. After this lecture, you will be able to identify key actions in terms of both mitigation and adaptation to climate change, including the strategic alignment with Sustainable Development Goals. First, a recent report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, the United Nations body for assessing the science related to climate change, states that human activities have caused, to date, approximately 1 degree Celsius of global warming above pre-industrial levels. With current growth rate, global warming is expected to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius before the half of the 21st century. Climate-related impacts for natural and human systems have already been observed at different magnitude, depending on the rate of warming, geographical location, levels of development and vulnerability, and on the choices and implementation of adaptation and mitigation options. By limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to 2 degrees Celsius, the impacts on terrestrial, freshwater and coastal ecosystems are expected to be reduced, and more services for humans to be preserved. Therefore, potential threats to health, livelihood, food security, water supply, human security, and economic growth would be mitigated. A record number of 7 out of the 10 countries in the world that will potentially be most threatened by climate change are African countries. These are the Central African Republic, Chad, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and South Sudan. Indeed, climate-related risks encompass a potential increase of heat-related morbidity and mortality, the amplification of the impacts of heat waves in cities, and the higher risks from some vector-borne diseases such as malaria. In addition, food and water stresses will be exacerbated, including the reduction in yields of many cereal crops such as maize, rice, and wheat. In order to limit global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius, greenhouse gas emissions have to be cut by about 45% from 2010 levels by 2030, reaching net zero around 2050. A mix of solutions may be implemented, including the reduction of energy and resource intensity, the increase of the decarbonization rate with massive renewable energy deployment, and the reliance on carbon dioxide removal. The IPCC estimates that in 1.5 degrees Celsius pathways, renewable energies are expected to supply 70 to 85% of electricity in 2050, while the remaining contribution would come from nuclear energy and gas-fired power plants equipped with carbon capture and storage. Efficiency increase and low-carbon solutions are also expected in industrial production by combining interventions that spur electrification, the use of green carriers such as hydrogen and biofuels, the on-site production of renewable electricity and heat, and the use of carbon capture, utilization and storage. However, broader actions should be taken to enlarge the needed transition, not only in energy, but also extending deep transformations in the field of land use, urban and infrastructure development. Land, urban and infrastructural planning is required to have long-term and robust mitigation options. In addition, specific measures should involve urban transport and buildings with the higher use of low-carbon energy carriers, such as renewable electricity and renewable gases. Sustainable intensification of land use practices, ecosystem restoration, and changes toward less resource-intensive diets are examples of possible interventions in land planning. Overall, climate change actions in terms of both mitigation and adaptation are closely linked to sustainable development that balances social well-being, economic prosperity, and environmental protection. Mitigation options consistent with 1.5 degrees Celsius pathways have robust synergies, particularly for health, clean energy, cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, and ocean. Similarly, adaptation options have many synergies with sustainable development goals, such as ensuring food and water security, reducing disaster risks, improving health conditions, maintaining ecosystem services, and reducing poverty and inequality. However, if not well managed, some mitigation and adaptation pathways show potential trade-offs with poverty, hunger, water, and energy access. Strengthening the global response in the context of sustainable development is therefore crucial and needs a strategic alignment of climate change goals with national development plans and sustainable development goals.